that has been reviewed by everyone and has been changed to address comments from those people.
So in a nutshell, we're going to be, you gave a good background. Specifically, we're looking at the use and occupancy inspections and the sewer lateral inspections as they affect chapters 58, 123, and 170. I have some questions and some comments, but I'll let anyone else who may have something to say go first.
I have a really easy one, I hope. At what point do we attach the fees for this? I don't remember we talked about that.
The fees, that will be a separate action by this board. You just have to amend the fee schedule. I would obviously recommend doing that either at the same time as this is being enacted or soon thereafter. There is no rule as to when to do that, but obviously if we put in place certain applications or permits and then have no fees for them, we're required to issue them, but we can't charge anyone for the cost of doing that issuance.
Thank you.
Okay. Anyone else? Terry? Dan? Crystal? Did you have any questions or comments on anything? Okay, so I'll start it off then. As far as the use and occupancy, and I believe this came up while we were in discussion with it before, we're kind of batting it around. First off, I don't see that we have a checklist that needs to be approved by the Board of Supervisors. So when would that be forthcoming? Is that something we can do at the same time we have the fees that'll be associated with it?
Yeah, I believe staff have a draft together, but yeah, we can.
Right.
When we are ready to advertise this, the hearing that we advertise and have the board consider adopting this, we can make sure that checklist.
Yeah, because part of our conversation was some people felt maybe it was too much of a deep dive. Some people maybe thought maybe it wasn't enough of a deep dive. So I think we might want to open that up for more consideration. And then something else that was talked about that I want to swing back to was use and occupancy certifications for homes that were built before 1940. We're talking about things that maybe they cannot meet in the inspection. I don't have the checklist, so I'm not really quite sure. GFIs and so forth and so on like that, you might have instances. Are there any allowances for older homes?
That is all a building code issue. I'm not qualified to opine over what is covered by the building code, or what is looked past, or when, how much does a inspection done for a transfer of property. Right. That normally would not trigger the building code. Normally
Correct.
The building code is triggered by doing construction. So we would probably have to talk to Barry Isaac, our code officials, about that particular question.
Kind of what I wanted to see the checklist to see what exactly would be involved in that inspection that might trigger something that they couldn't meet.
Generally, there's going to be like a GFI or a smoke alarm. There's things it's not cost prohibitive.
Okay.
So those would have been things that wouldn't have necessarily, you would have, as far as the house and the age of the house. Other things you run in, like handrails, like because it's more safety driven. Now there's situations where, like a spiral staircase, you can't put a legal handrail on it
Right.
because the steps are. So there's it's kind of like a non-conforming, so there's things that, you're not having them rebuild things. It's just more of a, if there's a spiral staircase, there should be, it's something for somebody to be able to grab, so
Yeah,
but we can get the checklist and.
For the sake of brevity, I just kind of want to put that on the radar that maybe that checklist will be helpful in determining, if we might want to tweak that. Did you want to add something?
Yeah, I wanted to add what, what's your name? Noel, yeah. What Noel just said related to older homes, because there are a fair number of older homes in the township, and depending upon how this is written or interpreted, we really do not want even GFI stuff. I mean, we have a number of older homes that still have
Not a do.
maybe not knob and tube, some may have knob and tube.
No, I've seen it.
I do.
Yeah,
So like,
yeah, we don't want, and sometimes that's impossible to change if you got like solid stone walls.
So something like that would be like if you've got the knob and tube, that's not something you're gonna have someone change. If it's, as long as it's contained
Right.
and it has a lit, like that's something like it once again, it's more safety driven. So as long as it's not, you know, they're just not out for, you know, you kind of look at like a youth could like that kind of thing, or like so.
Yeah, the other thing that comes to mind is, you mentioned spiral staircases. Not all staircases conform to, I forget what they call it, it's like width.
Correct.
And height.
And you're
stuff
and
like
you're not
that.
messing with that stuff.
Okay, so it would be good to get something that actually clearly clarifies that certain things in older homes aren't going to get triggered if they get,
That's a good point.
because
Yeah, but let's wait till we get that
Yeah.
checklist. Okay.
All right, yeah, so, but these are the kind of things that the inspectors, like, you're not gonna ask people to rebuild their houses, so it's like you said, if it's safe, it's okay. Like if it's a different kind of electric outlet, as long as it's safe.
Outlet covers, stuff like that. It is not, yeah.
Is it safe, it's okay, it doesn't, okay.
Okay, so, my next, point is, the sewer lateral inspection. I see that you compared it up to Schwenksville's. So we currently have like an I&I program in place right now. Okay, so I'm wondering, what do we do about any potential overlap where we've done a whole section with our I&I, and then let's say somebody sells their house in the next year, are we gonna make them go get that sewer lateral inspection?
So the I&I inspection is not inspecting the laterals, it's inspecting our main, it's inspecting our lines.
So our I&I is not out to identify any particular property that might have a problem, it's just for our infrastructure specifically.
If a camera can cap, and I can't say because I've not really
So
seen
in
much
our
video.
I&I, we don't have our folks looking at other people's laterals.
no,
No.
Okay.
So I think the only way our I&I inspection or could trigger work on a lateral is if we put a camera down a main and we go across a lateral and there's a constant flow of water.
Understood, right,
Yeah,
right, okay.
we immediately know, okay, yeah, there's something wrong there.
Okay.
But we're not inspecting the actual lateral itself.
Okay,
And
that's
that's
fine.
what this inspection program does.
Great, okay, so then that brings me to, there's obviously a charge associated with someone having their lateral inspected. And I'm wondering, and we want them to submit it to the township, who in our township's gonna look at it, what's the cost, it's another cost. I mean, in my mind's eye, I'm thinking, why don't we do what we do with our septic inspections? If it's a certified licensed sewer inspector, they could just certify that everything is fine and submit it to the township, instead of us having that extra bureaucratic motion and incurring another fee. Does this make any sense?
Yes.
Yes.
I mean, we can set it up however we want to set it up.
Okay.
That, you know, if we don't want to see the videos,
I kind of feel like it's redundant. If you're already having a professional doing it and they know what they're looking at, I mean, why would we want to do extra work?
well, I don't know, like the professionals, I don't know if they just film it and then turn into film, or if they've actually already watching everything as they're actually I don't know how the actual inspection works.
Right.
So, I mean, we certainly could do that, but we might want to talk to a professional to see if that's something that's done.
I would like to set something, or look at setting something up where what we ask for is the sewer lateral inspection, and by someone certified that would be willing to attest that they've cameraed the lateral and that it's free of cracks, leaks, what have you, whatnot.
The camera does, when you sit in the truck, there's a camera right there. They see where that camera goes, they look at the pipe as it goes through, okay? And they can make a copy of it for you. And what they do is they look for any leaks or breaks. That's all they can really find with that camera. You know, the infiltration or a break of a pipe. Now, I know Schwenksel, you're following off Schwenksel. Schwenksel has all terracotta, which wears, and they break easy. Terracotta breaks real easy. We have all modern plastic here, which very little stuff can damage plastic. It doesn't wear, it doesn't rust, and nothing can eat at it. Chemicals cannot eat at plastic. So it's gonna be, you may find a leak if somebody digs it or hits it but, they shouldn't grow through those pipes like they do on the others, so in plastic.
Do you know how they do it in Schwenksville, who does the inspections in Schwenksville?
I don't know who does it down there, but
I think Schwenksville allows the individual property owner, because we're talking about a point of sale inspection, where if you're selling your home, you have to hire someone to come in and do that for you. So I don't know. I think it might be worth looking at. Does anyone have an objection? Any questions? Any suggestions on that?
I guess the only thing I have to say is we have a neighborhood in our township that is on Schwenksville sewer, and I think what they're doing there works, so we might as well make it consistent and do the same with the rest. And I just don't know what that is. Do we know?
I'm not saying not to do it.
I'm just wondering, do we know what Schwenksville does
Yeah, we have it kind of.
in terms of
Yes.
who does the inspections?
I don't know how that's relevant when they allow a homeowner to just pick one they want.
Schwenksville is having third parties do the inspections.
Even on points of sale.
Yes, yeah, Schwenksville is not doing them themselves, they don't have
That's
the manpower.
I think that's what you were asking.
Question.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
that's fine, Schwenksville's fine.
And Schwenksville's ordinance is different, but the end result ends up the same, as what we're doing. So, and they don't conflict with each other in any way. And
Does anybody else have anything to add? Jason?
I don't know, I can't read
I just wonder if that's the route we take. Do we want to have like certain plumbers or that?
Almost
I don't know
like-
I don't know how we would have
Even
to
with our
delegate certain
septic,
amount.
it's like, here's a list of people to pick from.
Can Carol help us with that? No?
Carol or probably Bob.
Bob, okay.
Preston, yeah. Okay,
Sorry, does that need to be, does that require a change in the ordinance, or would that just be like an attachment with the permit?
I think that's procerocedural, isn't it?
Do we need
Well,
to change
right-
the ordinance for that?
Right now, the ordinance reads that you have to turn in the actual video, so we would have to take that language out. And instead have language that says, we'd probably want something in writing from a qualified inspector affirming that they found no leaks or cracks in the pipe.
And if they did find an issue, we want details on that. Maybe we'd like the video if they found issues.
That could be it, yes.
Exactly, okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense to me. If you find something, then it goes to the next level, but if there's nothing wrong, I don't see the point in having them submit a video to have our professionals look at that professional's work and then charge another fee. Okay, all right. So why don't we look into that and maybe have something we can look at the next work session? Okay. All right. Is there any questions on it? Does anybody have any questions on this? Anyone? Public? No? Okay. Next on our agenda is the Township Code Property Maintenance Revised Ordinance Draft Discussion.
Hold on 2 seconds, please. So once again, this ordinance has been in front of the board several times. The township currently has adopted the 2009 International Property Maintenance Code as the township maintenance code. So obviously it's about 7 years old at this point in time. This ordinance would adopt the 2024 International Property Maintenance Code. The last time this was reviewed, there was some, really, I think the only major discussion was regarding control of weeds in exterior areas of properties. The language of the current version has been changed so that it matches the language of our property maintenance code today, right now, that's in effect, which basically means only properties that are under an acre, is the height of weeds being regulated. Properties over an acre in size, that provision does not apply to them.
Okay, so we're looking for a motion to move this forward, and I think, we had made motions at the last meeting, and we kind of tabled it for, I think, a little bit more consideration, because we had a lot of input from a couple different people that made people take pause on specifically the 302.4 weeds subsection in the weeds. We got a good history from Chuck Yeiser. We had someone from the EAC speak very clearly about it. I knew where I kind of felt about it. I've heard from some other people. Is there anyone that would like to comment on what they think the pros or cons of this weeds or portion of this ordinance is?
I think we do have some issues in our Spring Mount area, in particular areas that do not come under an HOA. And we currently have no tools in our toolkit to deal with really egregious situations on small properties where the neighbors are right there on top of them.
And if the board would like, we did put together, Becky put together a presentation, like some of the picture samples that I think some of you would have seen if the board wants to.
That would be very helpful,
those.
because my concern is, I know the majority of us, we're fine, we forget to do something, it's fine, we have tall weeds, it's fine. But there are, again, the smaller properties that don't have HOAs, there are some issues. And I think we can reduce the lot size, we can say if you're not under an HOA, and you have a small lot, I think HOAs do a good job of the property maintenance.
So these are before and after for a property that's in the R4 district, which is Cedar Hill.
I'm trying to understand what I'm looking at there.
Nope.
Mike.
This is the this is the back area of one of the townhouses.
Is that like the fall, the winter? It's just dead plant matter?
It's a combination of stuff.
Okay. Well, stuff
Weeds
goes
overgrowth.
supersedes the weeds. So, or supposed weeds. I mean, they're dead. I don't know exactly if they are weeds or not. So.
Okay. So here's another example. So this is a situation where it's in R4. The resident has expressed that they want an all-natural garden, and so there's been no further code enforcement. But as it stated,
So they want this to look like this?
Yes.
And does someone have an objection with it looking like that?
We've gotten complaints from the neighbors.
So this is an aesthetic issue, right? Is this a safety issue associated with this, or is this aesthetic?
I would say probably more aesthetic.
Okay.
The safety issue, and once again, I wouldn't want to, if there's animal critters living in it, but that's not a given. I would say it's mostly aesthetic.
Okay.
If it's growing over the sidewalk, that is a safety issue. Is it? I can't tell from the picture. Is it over the sidewalk?
Well, we have code for that, where you have to keep your sidewalks clear. I don't think you need a weed ordinance for that.
Yeah, just, I wanted to see it a little bit bigger, that's all. If you can't, that's fine.
You okay?
I just wanted to see it a little bit bigger, because I can't.
I guess we need a bigger TV.
If you guys don't mind.
No, not at all. I was getting half tempted to do it myself.
So just to echo on what Noel just mentioned, so we do have codes already in place that you have to keep your sidewalks clear, right?
That's a given. Everyone's responsible for their own sidewalk.
Okay, so, yeah, because And we also have codes in place that if vermin show up in sufficient number, that something can be done, right?
Yeah, that falls under something else.
Yeah, I just
think
wanted
we-
to verify. that
I mean,
it
we,
was
As I
we,
under-
the case.
we already have a property maintenance code in place.
Right.
And that property maintenance code would apply to all these examples.
Right.
Okay.
Without a weed
Yeah, and the
ordinance.
new code would be applicable in the exact same fashion.
Okay,
There
thank
would be
you.
no change.
Thanks for clarification.
Thank
Appreciate
you,
it.
Peter.
So just to clarify, Peter, so what you're saying is we already have something in place that would deal with these situations so that the weed is redundant, basically. Is that what you're saying?
Adopting this new property maintenance code would have no impact on any enforcement against all these examples, because we're not changing this section of the weed, regarding weeds. The language is exactly the same in the new ordinance as it is in the current ordinance that's
No,
enacted.
that's not my question. I think the direction some of the board members are going in is they want to remove the weed section. So my question would this be, I guess I'm confused. I got the sense that this would be handled in another ordinance. Or is this the only place this can be dealt with?
I would have to look. I don't know of any other place. I don't think we have a standalone weed ordinance. Some townships do, but I don't believe we do. The only thing that would apply here is property maintenance. As far as sidewalks, once again, I have to look to see if we have a separate sidewalk maintenance ordinance, which requires, not only keeping weeds and vegetation off sidewalks, but also having to shovel them after a snowstorm. So yeah, I'm not sure if we have that either. Unfortunately, I can't look it up right now.
Yeah, and I guess also if this kind of, grew over into the parking area, that might be a different issue, so.
So this one here is in the Spring Mountain area, and this was a house that was taken down. Bamboo, which everyone knows is very invasive.
Oh, is that the one on Mary Jane?
Yes, Marion.
Or Mary Jane or
I think it's Marion. Is it
it's
Marion?
Mary something?
I don't. Yes,
Yeah,
you're
okay.
But so this would be a situation where you are dealing with a highly invasive weed and aesthetics, but once again, you don't know what's living in there or not. So.
Is that handled under the noxious stuff? The noxious rates? Do we have that in there?
Yes.
I think we had a repeated request to have bamboo added to that list. Okay.
Yeah, I'm in favor of not allowing bamboo to spread, because if your neighbor's got it and it comes into your yard, yeah, they need to take care of it.
This
So-
here will be just an empty lot in our R3, and actually we know this resident did buy this lot to make sure that it could be natural, and also nothing could be built on it. It's really a cleaned up version. Here's something in the VMU. Actually, we can see this at the post office. So that would probably be more aesthetics, although this could get to a point where, you could be dealing with line of sight potentially, but so we just wanted to show you some of the examples that we've been dealing with as far as complaints and through code enforcement and stuff.
If I recall from the last meeting, the original intent was to fill a gap in addressing dilapidated properties. And of course, we know there's the aesthetic factor. And someone spoke very clearly, the one thing that got said was by the EAC was recommending it for it to be removed. And a member spoke last week to it that parcel size or unachievable setback distances on small lots is not a good way to differentiate where you should apply these requirements. And you showed us some examples that are outside of the townhomes that don't have an HOA. I kind of feel like you're just zoning in on that one specific area, and it's if you're gonna do it, you have to apply it to everybody and not just one specific location. And at that point, I would just take it out. If you're not gonna apply it everywhere, take it out altogether. That's just my thoughts. Does anyone have any questions or comments on this?
Yeah, I'm gonna just give my points out here because I'm trying to look at all angles here. We have rural characteristic and then we also have more of a suburban lifestyle. So we have to kind of make sure we're on both playing fields here. By the pictures that I've just seen and everyone else has seen, I'm noticing even some potential hazards as far as pedestrians walking on sidewalks, and I am all for meadows and natural landscapes. I'm all for it. Needless to say, I have more than a 1/4 acre of land, and I can do that. Unfortunately, in these townhome areas, we have a mix of lifestyles. With that being said, I think that we should be enforcing some type of safety issue or safety concern to go along with this ordinance. We're doing it with, you know, if you're removing snow off your sidewalk, it should be the same way. You can't be tripping. We have elderly folks there as well with their walkers. They just want to go for a walk and they're tripping over weeds. I don't think that's just something we really have to think about.
Okay, so I don't think a weed ordinance is a good way to go about addressing safety issues. If there's ways to address safety issues like sidewalks and tripping hazards and so forth and so on, then maybe we should create something that addresses that instead of putting it on weeds. And if we have sightline distances, then we should put something in about sightline distances. I just don't think a weed ordinance is a really good way to go about doing that.
Absolutely, clear point. So maybe we should start adding on to this and adding the sidewalk issue.
Let's identify where the
Yeah.
safety and welfare issues lie and address them as opposed to broadly putting out a weed ordinance, because we all know it's a narc on your neighbor situation.
Right.
You know, it just, and it's all hyper-focused the way that it's written on one particular section of the township, and I don't think it's fair.
Yeah, I can agree.
Yeah,
Well-
so for example, if a mailman came up a walkway that was covered with weeds and fell and broke their leg, then we would need, I guess they would just sue them. Would that be a township issue or?
That's
Because if
property
you-
owner.
Yeah, so they would just sue the property owner. So we wouldn't necessarily get involved in that.
Nope. So, any other questions, any other comments?
Well,
Yeah.
originally the ordinance was written so that it did apply across the entire township.
Right,
In that you only had to control the weeds within 100 or 200 feet of an occupied dwelling. And that applied regardless of lot size. But then the board directed it to be changed to the current language it is now.
right,
Okay.
okay.
So do you want now to just eliminate that? Do you want to go back to the original language of 200 feet, or do you want something else?
My personal view on this, anybody else can weigh in on it, is to have it removed altogether.
I have one more question, at least, and I'm looking at you, Ernie. Bamboo. And I'm sure there's other things, and I'm not a weed expert, but I'm sure there are other noxious weeds like bamboo that creep over from your neighbor's property onto your property. So bamboo is a really good example because it does move and it's really hard to get rid of. So do we have any protections in place if my neighbor plants bamboo a foot from my property line and it creeps over? What can I do?
Bamboo is unstoppable.
It's very difficult to get rid of.
Yeah, the only way you can control it is to put metal sheets in the ground down 3-4 foot, or else use polyvinyl type sheathing, and that would have to go down 3-4 feet in the ground vertically.
Right, but if my neighbor's planting this near my property line, how do I get him to do it so I don't have to do it?
A while back, I had handed off samples of ordinances from other areas in Montgomery County through the Planning Commission. And it seemed like, and I'm going back several years ago, it seemed like nobody wanted to listen to it. I am getting ready to bring it up again to the township, and I'll wait till that time.
I've prepared and had clients enact ordinances specifically aimed at running bamboo.
Yeah, maybe that's a better direction to go in, is to pick those specific
I didn't
noxious
hear,
weeds
I
that.
didn't hear the solicitor's comment.
I said I have prepared ordinances specifically aimed at regulating bamboo.
The only way you can regulate it is dig it out, take away all the roots. That's about it. And you can, in some municipalities, they do control it. Like I said, they put vertical sheeting down in the ground and keep it controlled to that area.
Yeah,
That's very rare.
And even then,
That's
sometimes
the
it's not a
ordinance.
guarantee.
The ordinances that I've written. If you're a property owner who installs bamboo, you're required to put in those barriers in the ground, or plant it within like a container of some type.
Okay, so, does anybody else have any questions on where we stand with the weed thing before we go down another rabbit hole? Stay, go, keep the old language, do the new language?
I'd like to make a proposal. If we remove subsection 302.4, are we ready to move forward on approving this?
Yes.
I really don't want to see it again. I mean, maybe you do, but I've seen this enough.
I would be willing to approve this as it stands right now with the removal of, 302.4? Removing the weed ordinance portion of this altogether, and then we can talk about focusing on safety concerns and bamboo and all that other stuff.
So the only thing is if we remove a 302.4, it references noxious weeds. And noxious weeds are in the general definitions. Do we need to strike that from the general definitions, or are we mentioning noxious weeds anywhere else in this document?
Can we rely on our solicitor to remove the relevant related sections again, so it doesn't have to see this again?
Well, I think the noxious weeds stand alone all by itself, just because it's mentioned in the weeds. I don't know if that actually affects the noxious weeds.
Okay.
I mean, if you look at this, I can delete the first and second sentences of 302.4, leave the third sentence that prohibits noxious weeds everywhere, which state law also prohibits.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I can also, I can eliminate the whole second paragraph.
And that still covers us under noxious weeds.
Yes, 'cause
Fabulous.
it just says they're prohibited throughout the property.
Would you then be removing weeds under the noxious weeds portion, where it gives you all the noxious weeds and it says and weeds, which I then think skips over to 302.4.
We could delete the definition of weeds, yes.
Okay. All right.
So just to be clear, so removing the weeds section, we're saying that people can't install noxious weeds, knowingly install noxious weeds.
It's prohibited.
It's prohibited. If they already exist on somebody's
Well, we
property,
have,
they
there's
can
something
stay.
we will understand about this.
I just wanted to make that clear, because
So if the
Noxious
townhome
weeds.
in Cedar Hill had some obnoxious weed growing up, you'd have a case, the leg to stand on to go and tell them to have it removed. So is
But-
that English ivy growing up? Was that English ivy that's growing up there? I don't know.
Not the weed guy.
Just saying. Okay, are there any other questions, any other comments? Anyone on Zoom? Bob, do you have a question or comment?
Yeah, we're talking about the property maintenance, correct?
We're just talking about the weeds portion.
Just the weeds? What about-
Just the weeds. We're not talking about anything else right now. Did you want to make a suggestion about something to be discussed at a later time?
Well, I think the question that I have
Sure.
is, you're gonna go from the 2009 version to the updated version.
Mm-hmm.
And back in 2009, or whatever our supervisors did back then, they made amendments to the ordinance, changing it, doing whatever. So is that gonna be eliminated? Or is that gonna carry forward with the new ordinance, or how's that all?
Most of those changes, if they're still applicable, are carried forward.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Is that good, Bob?
That's
Okay.
good for now.
Diane, did you still have a question or comment?
No, I think you have, answered the question.
Okay. All right. Having discussed that, do we want to wait for Peter to make the markups, or do we want to move forward with a motion to adopt this with the changes the solicitors
Well,
want to make?
it has to be advertised.
Okay.
So
Okay, that's what we're doing
the motion
tonight.
would be
Okay.
to authorize advertisement.
Okay.
I will so move.
I will second. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay. On our next on our agenda. Whoops, sorry. Next on our agenda is to authorize Township Code Village Mixed Use Zoning District discussion.
This is a really big topic. I wonder if we can put some boundaries around this, like what are we gonna talk about today? I'm assuming this is gonna take multiple discussions.
I could personally comment on everything in here. I don't want to do that if we don't have to. My first concern though is that we have meeting minutes for the PC. We don't have the most recent ones. The most recent we have are from June, and we have no written recommendations from the Planning Commission on anything in here. Now, I know that if you don't go to the meetings and you didn't watch it, you'd be hard pressed to make a decision. John Miklos did a fabulous job of addressing a lot of the things that were discussed at the Board of Supervisors meeting. And he has bullet points of suggestions, which were very helpful. But I feel like I really want to get something from the Planning Commission, either saying that they agree with John's recommendations. Do they have any questions about those recommendations, or if they have other recommendations? Before I actually dive in, I mean, we could pick one or two things and maybe.
I know Carol's not here, and I think this is more in her bailiwick, but I would like to see some kind of design standard. So if we have a store and a store and a store, we don't have one piece of sidewalk look one way and another piece of sidewalk look another way and one sign look one way. I'd like to see some kind of consistent look.
I think we
At
were
the
gonna
circle.
get through this portion here, and then that would have been like one of those things that we would be asking for additional work on would be, and I think that John Miklos would be more adept at doing design standards, but that would have been one of my requests after we get through this, was the design standards and a couple other things, but I'm looking for recommendations from the PC, but I don't have an objection to maybe making some comments on some of the things that I saw in here.
Yeah,
Anyone else?
Yeah, one of the things, and Peter, maybe you could help with this. It's my understanding that Pennsylvania has changed some of the, some of the things that can be done or defined by a community related to villages.
Like along more traditional neighborhood, like something for village mixed use.
For village mixed use, we have some additional,
But I think that's more along design standards, is that correct? Dan?
yeah, I mean, I remember
More
you
of design
mentioned this at, it's either you or Colby at one of the meetings. And it was also mentioned when we went to the, what do they call that, the PSATs,
Conference?
yeah, not the conference, it was the PSATs, boot camp meeting or whatever.
Okay.
Where they mentioned there is new law in place that makes it easier for townships to perhaps direct a little bit more how villages can be developed. I mean, they still have to comply with zoning and so forth, but they have a little more leeway. So if that indeed is the case, it may not be. If it's not the case,
I'm just not sure what you're referring to.
Okay.
Unless we do deep dives into aesthetics.
I
Yeah,
know what he's talking about, and it does
Yeah.
have to do with design standards, which is not what we're gonna talk about tonight.
Right.
It
Right.
is something we can talk about later, but let's get focused back on
Yeah.
this village mixed use thing. And if there were, I had some comments. I know right out of the gate, John made a recommendation, not a recommendation, but a suggestion, and it was something that I had brought up, and it was one of the reasons I had brought the village mixed use up in the first place, how it needed to have the tires kicked, was under conditional use list in 17087, uses permitted by conditional use only is H. And his suggestion was if you don't like it, take it out altogether, and I am completely on board with that suggestion. Excuse me? Well, we don't need to be super specific. It's not a matter of taking out specific things. It's the language in H that allows for a broad, let's say, it's subjective. It's a very subjective line item in the code that is rife for abuse. Let's put it that way. We don't have to get down to the minutiae of it. But that was the one thing I can mention that I looked at, that I wouldn't actually need a recommendation from the planning commission because I would be for that. There's commercial use recommendations, mom and pop. So yeah, that's where I'm at, is looking for PC recommendations on the village mixed use. I saw the connections maps and stuff in here were attached, but I don't think I'm prepared to take a deep dive into that right now or have a conversation. Again, I'd like to have some recommendations from the PC.
And just speaking for myself, I don't know how the other board members feel, but I'd like to see the minimum lot sizes for any residential development in village mixed use be smaller. I don't think we need to have single-family homes on quarter-acre lots in the circle. That's just me, but I think we should have more, apartments above shops, smaller homes. If people are going to be walking, they don't need big yards. Not in that venue.
All right, so that's where I stand. I'm looking for PC, specifically it's PC recommendations, whether they're for John Miklos's points of interest or if they have other things to add. Diane, would you like to make a comment? Please come up to the microphone. State your name and address.
Diane Jern, Zieglerville Road. I was at the previous PC meeting, so was Jason. I can't quote what they said verbatim, but knocked it out of the park was one of their comments. They made comments about they liked the parking situation.
Aligning which one's closed?
And also about the size.
The lot sizes.
The size is also of a supermarket. So I think you shushing it back to them instead of.
Okay, so if you're not actually at the meeting
Mm-hmm.
and hearing that verbal hit it out of the park, for memorial purposes, for best practices, we really should have this in writing. Whether it's baked into their meeting minutes or in writing. It would make this process a whole lot easier because now we have to go through everything, which we should do anyway, but getting those comments back from the PC makes this a whole lot easier.
So does our township manager, is he able to communicate any of that with you, or do you have to wait?
It should come from the PC
It should come
to the
from
manager
PC.
and then come to us.
Okay, so since what I hear you saying is it's gotta go back to them, something I desire as a resident is
It could be
that-
something as easy as their next meeting, they can write something up.
I got it.
Or when they do their meeting minutes that we don't have yet, they can put those recommendations clearly within the body of their meeting minutes.
I got that. I understand what you were saying now.
Yes.
My desire as a resident is that I hear the Board of Supervisors talk about their vision for village mixed use. The intent that had been written sort of was a vision, but now if you do drill down to what you want to see, like talking about apartments over businesses and so forth, maybe if you can, because I feel like they're saying we need direction from,
Well,
I don't
actually,
know what.
John Miklos actually does have within his memo addressed a lot of those things and has even actually marked up the
Okay.
code. So we have those things. I mean, we can talk about them. We can talk about them, but I would really like to get the PC's recommendations on this, or at least say a green light on it.
All right.
Yes.
Jason, was it your impression that this memo by John Miklos was a kind of agreed to by the planning commission.
Oh,
Well
absolutely.
received, yes,
Yeah,
very
no,
much so.
Diane
So
expressed it.
those are our comments. John Nicholas's memo is their comments.
I can run with that then. I'm just saying for future, I'd be willing to concede, we can look at this now. So, John did do a very good job on the supermarket locations and the size of the stores. Did everyone have a chance to look at this? Was there
Yes.
any recommendation from the planning commission that we should go with a specific size store as opposed to 50,000 square foot? We have everything from 37,000 to 18,000. Or did the board want to
Well,
maybe discuss what we thought might
what
be?
does that look like? Like, how big is a giant?
Okay, so CVS is 13,000 square foot. Okay. Are you familiar with the old Landis down in Perkiomen?
Yes.
Okay, that was 31,000 square foot. And the Landis in Salford, over in Vernfield, is that Vernfield? That's 21,900 square foot, so you can get a visual that way.
50,000 sounds too big to me.
It was always too big.
But I'm on board with the parking recommendations. I know we talked about that before. There's a lot of empty parking everywhere
Yes.
because people just do online shopping. Yeah, I'd definitely like to add some residential types under residential recommendations. Mix of unit types, absolutely.
Yeah, he did mark up in our code, different housing types. We have lot line housing, village house dwelling, patio house dwelling, single family, semi-detached dwelling.
Yeah, that's on page 6, residential recommendations.
Yep.
I think that's all good. And it would be great to not have any more chains at the circle, in my opinion.
Well, I don't know if we can prohibit
No, we can't, but it would be nice to have more mom and pop stores. I don't know how you
Yeah.
do that, but
I don't know, we can talk about maybe removing the drive-through or.
I don't know if we can do that.
Mm-hmm. Yes, you can.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well,
But that would be,
unless-
that's another
unless-
discussion.
Right, but, well, yeah, it's another discussion.
So under the mom and pop, the franchise versus local business recommendations, yes, the reduced parking requirements, and that's where he bakes in the live-work units, where you have a business on the bottom, you have the units on the top.
Yeah, the other nice kind of units are what do they call them, where the wall connection is in the garage?
Carriage
garage.
house.
Yeah, those are nice, and they tend to have, because it's a house, but it has a small yard.
And the party walls at the garage.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I think it's a really good starting point. I mean, Peter, where do we go from here? There's a lot in here. Like,
Yeah, it's an awful lot.
can we pick like a topic, a meeting, or what? Do you have any suggestions on how we digest all this?
Yeah, I mean, there's no correct way of doing it. You can, just plow through it section by section, topic by topic. You can ask John and or the PC to put together a more comprehensive suggested change to, and then you then have an ordinance that you actually are reviewing and considering, instead of just kind of doing it in theory.
John has made some red lines and markups
Yes, correct, he
that I
has.
thought were spot on appropriate.
Yeah,
I don't have an objection that have to do with the minimum lot area, square feet. And I would assume that the planning commission was okay with those numbers. Different setbacks.
I mean, you also could invite John in to give a presentation as to what he envisions this ordinance leading to as far as development within this area.
It might be super useful, yeah. Because it is an awful lot to absorb and discuss in one evening.
Yeah, and the other thing that would be helpful from John is if he could maybe chunk this into maybe 2 or 3 bites and say, these sections you could look at together. Because I find this is huge. And I know they worked on this hard when they originally did it, but there's a lot in here. I mean, for example, I have some questions. So at the beginning of it, it talks about, the kind of uses they can have. So it has, bed and breakfast. And there's something under here where I saw warehouse. I don't think we should allow warehouses at our circle.
Where did you?
There's actually a large number of commercial/industrial uses that I question why you would want them in this sort of
Yeah,
area.
those should be
I'm
further
sorry,
out.
I didn't hear what you just said. Could you say that again? I'm sorry.
I said there were several kind of larger, more impactful commercial/industrial uses that you might not want in this area.
Right.
Now that being said, I can understand why they're there because this is where Saks is located. But like warehouses is one of those that normally you're not going to see that in a village center type of zoning district.
Right. Is
Where
that
the-
allowable now?
Yes,
Oh.
Yes.
yes it is. Also funeral home, an undertaker. I'm not sure we want to have that.
I don't mind a funeral home as long as it doesn't have a crematorium.
Yes, so my comment would be to add that prohibition to, because right now, if a funeral home comes in and they want a crematorium, we would have to allow that.
That's on 170-86. M. New N, formerly M.
HJK. Oh, it goes up to K. Oh, there it is.
170.86. I just think we need to scrub this a little bit and think about, these are things people are going to walk to.
Okay, so what do we think about what's already been done? I mean, we could at least look at what he has done in 170-89 in the dimensional regulations. I think he did a good job in there. We have a couple small changes, additional standards for residential development. He really tweaked this nicely so that it's not just all single-family housing.
Yeah, I think a mix is going to be really valuable, and I think
Yeah.
people who are going to live at the circle are not going to want to be in a big house. It's going to be crowded and noisy there, and these are,
And he also made
apartment dwellers
allowances
and-
for conversions of existing homes to be made into duplexes as well, which is nice.
I think he did a really good job at figuring all, like, a little bit of everything. I think maybe just fine tuning some of the details in order to go through each one, but he did a fantastic job.
So I'm satisfied what he did provide in the markup on the code itself.
But I do think some minor tweaking still needed, like you just
Yes.
mentioned with the funeral homes. And I'm looking at letter S under 170-86. I'm not even sure accessory uses on the same lot and customarily incidental and subordinate to the principal uses listed herein. That could mean literally anything from the way I'm reading it.
So we should look at maybe tweaking that and maybe picking.
What would that actually mean, Peter?
I think those are sheds, like sheds and garages and things.
Meaning, if you have a residential principal use, your, sheds, pools, spas, those are the classic play sets, classic accessory uses to a residential use. Setting up a bowling alley is not. So that would not be a customary and normal accessory use to a residential property. But, going back to the funeral home, having a crematorium is a normal customary accessory use to a funeral home. So that's why, unless we say specifically you're not allowed to have one, a funeral home moves in, they're gonna be able to put one in.
Yes.
Likewise, like with a church, a customary accessory use to a church is a daycare. It's that sort of thing.
Is it fair to say then, if that was the case, and we wanted to inform them that they couldn't do the crematorium? Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
it would be almost like an ordinance type of thing that we put in place so that when they do come in,
Yeah, what you would do is we would add language to that section where it says funeral homes are allowed, that you would say, funeral homes allowed, however, crematoriums are specifically not allowed or excluded.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, I guess my concern is this letter S kind of, does it put us in the same dilemma that we wind up with respect to 170-87, the letter H, which is the uses determined by the Board of Supervisors to be
And John's
similar?
recommendation was to have that removed. I said this earlier altogether.
Yeah.
I'm for that.
Yeah, I'm
It leaves
just,
everything very, very open and arbitrary.
well, I see S to me sounds the same as H, that's why
Gotcha.
I raised the point. I mean, but you're saying S isn't quite the same as letter H under 170-87.
No, I mean, it's very loosey-goosey, because there's gonna be these gray areas where it's unclear, is that a normal and, standard accessory use to a particular principal use, and you'll have people argue one way or the other. I mean, obviously, there's some that are obvious one way or the other, but there's gonna be a whole bunch that they could go either way.
And
So-
we said a church, daycare centers are now typically associated with churches sometimes.
Yeah,
Cemeteries historically have been.
same, yeah.
So do we want cemeteries behind a church, or do we want them
I
in
think
position?
we're kind of going down a rabbit hole here with the specific uses. When we
Well-
should actually be focusing on what we have sitting before us and decide if we want to talk about that or like the supermarket parking and the supermarket size. And there's all this work before us right now that I would really like to say, do we need some more recommendations, or are we okay with it? I know for one, I'm happy with the idea of adopting Schwenksville's shared parking calculations so that the gravel pipe corridor is consistent. That seems to make sense to me. Like I said, I'm okay with the changes that John has made to the existing code that we have, and we can dive into prohibited and allowable uses. We did a lot of work on the supermarket parking requirements. Of course, we'd have to pick the size of the grocery store to kind of drill down on that. He gave a lot of really good data on that.
Yeah, by
And
the,
how, which marker should we pick to determine the number, like how many, like are we gonna use it like gross sales floor area or so forth and so on. I mean, those are the things that maybe we should be talking about, like, yes, that's the one we should go for.
yeah, and by the way, the wholesaling and warehousing is 170-87, item G. I just think we should eliminate that. Do we want to have repair shops and indoor trade schools? That's item F. Hotel? I don't know, how could they, maybe,
It's hard not to get into minutia
I know.
because you wouldn't, like, if you go to Swansville, they have a bicycle repair shop. I don't think anybody would have an issue with a village have a bicycle repair shop in it.
We're going down a rabbit hole that's
Yeah.
actually not on the agenda.
Okay, well,
well, I'm wondering about the hotel and
Yeah.
motel, is there
I
any
know, but
space
that's
there?
part of the rabbit hole that I'd like to
Yeah.
get away from and start
We'll have to
concentrating
get to
on
that eventually.
what we actually have before us. We can definitely put that on the list of things to talk about,
So we're gonna,
along with design standards and drive-throughs, but what's sort of reasonable? I mean, John makes a good argument for 35,000 square foot grocery store. And I think that's reasonable, and it's much better than a 50,000 square foot grocery store. Or do we wanna wait for recommendations from the PC?
I mean, additional recommendation. I mean,
Additional, yes.
I like the idea of seeing if John Miklos would be willing to come in, if we have some questions for him. I think that would be probably, for me at least, that would be more helpful.
Are you
Since he
looking
wrote
for
this.
him to make a recommendation on the size of the grocery store?
No, I was looking if he could attend one of our meetings.
To clarify, what, I mean, I hear you, it would be great, but what are
Or
we
maybe
looking
it's
for?
premature for that, because I think, my sense is what is in this memo from John is the planning commission's recommendations. They're all in agreement with these.
Ernie, would you agree with that?
Yes, I
That
will.
John Miklos's memo is it could be considered
I think-
recommendations from the PC?
Well, we were still working on that, we did go over it, and then we're not having our minutes completed either, so
Okay.
we don't have a, recording secretary yet.
Right.
So there's, a little bit, we did talk about that at our last meeting last week,
Right.
and, we're gonna try to work that out. But yes, and again, I think you're jumping the gun a little bit, because there is a little bit of work that has to be done with this yet.
Correct.
So then
The
you're
idea
saying it
being
should
we
go
have
back to the.
condense it, because we don't have a lot of the spaces here to do a lot of this, unless we make some dramatic changes.
So then you're really saying it should go back,
Pardon me?
it should go back to the planning commission?
This should go back to the planning commission,
Okay,
yes.
that's what we were trying to get across up here.
Yeah.
So will you
I
be able to
agree.
put it on your next meeting agenda?
And to make specific recommendations from John Miklos's, I mean, it's fabulous, it's great, he hit it out of the park, it's a lot of great data, but now it's taking that data and making recommendations from there.
Right, we have done
Yeah.
a lot with this. Could we do more? Yes, we could do
Okay.
more. We were waiting for recommendations from the Board of Supervisors too, to help us out with some of the humps here with this.
What specifically were your humps while you were here, if you don't
Well,
mind?
the idea being to look at it more, we can make recommendations, but the idea being that, and I'm trying to go from memory without having it, I'm looking at some of my notes, I don't have them all here. The idea of getting more ideas to try to condense a village mixed use, area. We have an awful lot here that can be done, and I don't think we have the room. You just can't make up something and then all of a sudden want to bring it into an area and try to make it fit. We'd have one hell of a problem. And a lot of these things you like to see directed by an applicant who comes in here with an idea, looking at the ordinance the way it's written now, excuse me. But to work that way, we still have work to condense this
Mhm.
and make it a little more usable.
Okay. So this should probably go back to the PC then, let you guys kind of fine tune it a little bit then,
Yes.
in order to bring it back for recommendations? Okay, thank you, Ernie, I appreciate that. All right, does anybody have any other questions or comments on this before we table it and send it back to the PC? Is there anything that we want the PC to drill down on that we're looking at right now? Like picking a size for a grocery store and kind of drilling down and confirming that we will or will not be, kind of aligning with Schwenksville and their parking minimums. Or a couple other things in here, so.
Did they receive everything that we currently have in our hands? Did the
What's that? I'm
PC
sorry, say
Did the
that again.
PC receive everything that we currently have?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
So I
yes.
guess it's just a matter of them revising everything and kind of coming back to us with their questions or what they're looking for advice on, correct? Is that how I'm understanding what the PC is requesting from us?
No, we're gonna send it back to them. My question is there anything that else within the body of this that we're already looking at that maybe we want them to address while they're looking at
Till
it?
our next meeting, you'll have a lot of time to read through this whole thing and pick out anything that you'd want to discuss to them.
That'd be a big one.
Okay.
Yeah, just for me, I'd like a really good scrub of what's allowable, the allowable list, and the prohibited list, and if either of those lists need to be, have things added or taken off, because as you said, we don't have 10,000 acres. We're not gonna, some of these things don't make sense.
Right.
And some of them that may not be on the list might make sense. So for me, that would be really helpful to and make sure the list also is as Peter's concern is, we don't want things that are ambiguous that people could use as gray area and push in certain things that don't rightfully
Very,
belong there.
very finely defined, yes. Okay. Did you catch all that, Jason?
Yes.
Thank you very much. All right, well, we're gonna table this for now. We're gonna send this back to the planning commission, and I look forward to their work on that as well. Okay, next on our agenda is authorization to advertise the 2026 equipment bid. This is an easy one. We all know how this works. So the annual equipment bid is up and due. It ends at the end of March. We do this every year. Carol prepares it with input from our roadmaster, Tom Manning. And this is basically just an authorization to advertise the 2026 equipment bid by the township engineer. So can I get a motion?
I'll make a motion.
Supervisor Sachs makes the motion. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Supervisor Orff seconds. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion
Aye.
passes unanimously. And the last item on our agenda this evening is the LSA grant police department vehicle quote. Chief Gass, you're up.
Thank you. So if you're not aware, the township received a $58,520 grant for the purchase of a police vehicle, which will replace our 2014 Explorer. The quotes that I got, or the one quote that I have, seems extremely high. I want to not provide any numbers because I want to do some diligence, get some better numbers compared to what we've done in the past. I would just ask for the board's authorization. Ask the board's authorization to start the process of getting all quotes, get the numbers, and then at the regular workshop or the regular general meeting, I'll have the whole packet prepared for you guys for the authorization to start signing for documents, get our car ordered.
Okay. And you want to keep it within that grant?
My goal is to not exceed the grant, so it doesn't affect anything with the township budget.
All right, terrific. Well, then I look forward to you at the next, is it the work session? No, the next, the general meeting, okay.
2 weeks should be, because
Okay.
I priced out the Explorer. However, I worked this weekend in the snow. I want to try to price out another pickup truck because the actual true four-wheel drive was a huge benefit, being able to get around with all the crashes we had this weekend.
Okay.
So I want to try to do due diligence and get the most value from the grant.
It was a busy weekend.
Yes, it was.
It was a crazy busy weekend.
Yes, it was.
That Montgomery County incident report just kept going and going.
Yes, it was.
Do you need a vote from us to go forward with that?
I would just like the authorization to get the process going, get the numbers going, and then
So you do need a vote.
Well, I think a
Consensus is fine. If you guys,
Okay.
consensus is fine.
Well, you
Because
were-
because the vote's gonna be on the actual quote that Chief provides you guys.
Right. So everybody is in agreement to let Chief Cass move forward with getting some additional quotes and information for the next meeting.
thank you.
Okay, thank you. Is everyone consent?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Chief. All right, well. Okay, is there any public comments? This public comment portion of our meeting, anyone? Okay, seeing none, supervisor comment?
I just want to take the time to thank road crew for doing their due diligence. Is that how you say that? Sorry. They did a fantastic job, I think, with the storm that just came through. I have been spending a lot of time with road crew. There has been a lot of discussions on items, and I am waiting for the end of the month to kind of write something up, something nice to present to the board as far as my experience. But I do want to thank them. They were out there at 4 a.m, making sure our roads were as clean as possible, as much as they could. And we are up and coming with another one this weekend. So they're out there. They're working hard. So thank you so much, guys.
Okay, on that note, we tabled some appointments. Are we talking about boards and commissions? Is this? Yeah. Why don't you speak to it? Yeah.
Yeah, so there's some questions from some folks about reappointments we didn't make. Just to let you all know, we have a couple vacancies we're hoping to fill with new people. And all the pending vacancies for the reappointments, we will be voting on those at the February meeting. But not to worry, if you have not been reappointed on any boards and commissions, you can still attend. It's all fine. So apologies about that, but it's just move on as business as usual.
How about the reorg that we need to do at our next meeting?
I'm sorry, say that again?
The reorganization, we do it at our first meeting of the year.
Your EAC reorg?
Yes. If somebody is not,
You don't have a quorum.
No, but our chairman hasn't been reappointed, so we're a little nervous about that.
You can reorganize, and then if the chair is not reappointed,
Right.
you always can reorganize later in the year. You don't have to do it at the first meeting. Or you're not only limited to doing it at the first meeting. Yes, you should do it at the first meeting, but if you need to change something later on, you can.
So basically, it's until the board, it's not that they don't have a quorum, as long as the board is going to make an appointment, he's still the active chair, and they can just put it back down.
He is on the committee. They're all the people who are up for appointment remain on their various committees until they are replaced or reappointed.
Thank you, Peter. Are there any other questions, any comments? Okay, seeing none, this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.